Okay, here I am going to show disassembly of an Arizer Solo. I had to take apart my wife's and I could not find any good videos online, and so I'm going to do a step-by-step as much as I can and try and talk about what I'm doing. I do not, of course, know what the names of all the parts officially, so I will make up names as I go along. I am not an expert, but hopefully this is more help than not being able to see anything. I know that when I was contemplating doing it, the lack of being able to see how it was put together or what the parts might be was very daunting. And I will pause this as I go because I can't both hold it and do it, so you're going to see the pieces after I take it apart, and then I'll explain how I got there, rather than me showing each step in action. Okay, the first step of disassembly is to remove the case. The top part of the case is threaded, and it simply unscrews from the top. After that, there are 4 screw holes in the corners of the base. These are the screws that were removed from there, and once you've removed those, this slides right off the top. Once you've done that, you're left with the body. So here's the fascia, the front piece that you're used to. There is a black cover for the back half, and it clips in 4 places there. You need to very carefully remove those. I've read that you can break these very easily when you're taking that off. And then the batteries inside there, will be removing that, just unclipping it, because obviously you don't want power running through this thing while you're poking at the electrical portions of it. And then this heater assembly unscrews from the top here and comes off. And again, I'll be showing them as I disassemble it and talking about how they came off. So hang in there. I've removed the battery cover. That's it right there. And then the battery simply pulls right out. As you can see, it's connected by a wire. The connection point here has a piece of foam wrapped around it, padding or insulation, I'm not sure which. I'm going to carefully unwind that, and within there you can see there's a plastic, red plastic piece, and those will just clip apart, unclip, pull apart. Again, we want to remove the battery. We don't want any electricity in this thing while we're playing with it. The foam just unwrapped easily, tore a little tiny bit, that's kind of normal. And then, as I said, this red plastic piece just clips together. Both sides have red and black going into them. You obviously want to connect red to red, black to black when you put it back together. It looks like a keyed connector, so you should not be able to do any otherwise. Okay, now our next step is I'm going to remove these screws and take off the heater assembly so we can look at that. Okay, I've removed the top, removing the screws. This comes off. The little catches here on either side of the lower portion of the heater, they need to be pulled gently out to allow this and this to come loose. And like with the battery cover, they're the sort of plastic that will break easily if you're not careful. This little ring, which is plastic, was up in here. There's a little lip on both pieces so that it can't come all the way out, but that's what fits up in there. This piece here should also come off the posts. I haven't pulled it off yet, and allow us to look at the underside of this, of the tiny board here. And I don't know if it's clear, but there is a lot of residue on that board right there, which I'm going to blow off and then clean off with rubbing alcohol and a Q-tip. There's also the heater itself up inside this piece. That is what the wires, if you can see them. Silly me. Let me turn it around for you. Alright. If you can see those wires. Okay. That whitish clear thing, that's wires running up into this unit to where the heater is. So we're going to need to be very careful. We don't want to pull those out or anything like that while we're manipulating this. Anywho, next step, I'm going to pull this off these posts and then we'll see what we see. Okay, I removed that from the posts. There are two sets of wires from the base coming up, and both are clip connectors, so we can remove those to totally remove the base of the heat unit from the lower half, and that will give us the ability to look really good at that smaller circuit board up there. There's two circuit boards in this. There's a really big one in the base, and there's a little tiny one up under the heater. So the two things we really want to do here, just based on best practices, is clean the board here and get up into the heater here and remove any gunk we can find up there. And why do we do that? Because it seems to help with problems like overheating, blue light of death, etc., etc. I forgot to mention, but I should mention, the sections here are different on this unit than they are on the newer Arizer. My wife has both. But it's not significant. It's a little bit of the shape in that little ring in here are really the only differences. The wires are not fully disconnectable on the newer version. So that is a matter that you need to worry about. Don't try and take this off the body with the newer version. Alright, I'm going to try and remove these electrical connectors so that we can get this totally free and start cleaning it. Okay, as I expected, those wires came off very easily. So now we're just going to try and get this cleaned up. I don't believe that anything bridging electrical contacts like that is a good idea. Okay, for the little tiny circuit board that's on the bottom of the heater portion, there are actually two screws which hold it in place on these posts, and I removed those because it was too close to the base here to be cleaned easily. But once I removed it, it was possible to make it squeaky clean using pipe cleaners with rubbing alcohol. So then I'm going to screw that back in, and then we'll be addressing the heater. Okay, so that circuit board is now clean. We're going to put our attention to the actual heater. This plastic piece has a little metal cup in here, and I believe, based on the past one I looked at, screwed to the bottom of that cup is the heater assembly. So we're going to take pliers and gently pull that up and out. Because it is attached by wires here, you want to be very careful not to yank it and like make it go far, because if you do that, you're going to pull the wires out. There's also white gunk here, which I suspect is intentional insulation as opposed to corrosion. I didn't have that on the last one I disassembled, so I don't know. I'm going to be careful. If it comes apart, then I'll worry about that then. Okay, that came out relatively easily. This plastic piece here has a shiny part on the bottom, which is just an insulation piece. And that leaves us with the heater unit itself, which is a metal cup. That metal cup has a post on it. That post has a screw sticking into it, and in between sandwiched a couple layers of ceramic heater with a hole through the middle for the post to fit on. So I'm next going to undo the screw and be able to look at the individual heater portions The white gunk did not come apart yet, but it is kind of fragile, so hang in there. Okay, that came apart easily, and it had 2 layers of insulation. That's these 2 rings right here. Then the heater element itself, which is the only piece the wires are attached to. And that screwed onto that sat on top of the cup, the metal cup with the post. What I'm going to do is I'm going to clean all this up, but I'm going to focus especially where the wires are soldered onto the ceramic and make sure that area is very clean. Because obviously if there's gunk that's making an electric connection between the wires instead of making it go through the heater, that's going to cause a problem. Okay, having cleaned it, it actually becomes obvious that that little white gunk thing sticking up is a part and not just gunk and not just insulation. There are 4 wires protruding through here to go to this assembly. 2 of them go to the disc, 2 of them go to that white thing. So don't rip that off and throw it out, whatever you do. Okay, I've cleaned. The disc itself didn't clean all that well, as you can see, but the gunk that was around the contacts did seem to clean up nicely enough. So I'm feeling more comfortable that this is cleaner than it was when I started. Now I'm going to put it back together. This on the metal, then the 2 discs, then the screw, and the screw into the bowl into this assembly once it's put together. And then the post reconnected to the wires, the base reconnected to these wires, and then the base back down onto those 4 posts. Okay, that all reassembled nicely. The top onto the middle and down over the base for the heater plastic pieces. Put the 2 top ones together first because the top has clips on the side that clip over the middle, and then put them down over the base, which has clips up the sides that clip back over the top 2. The screws you can put in at that point, but they don't screw into anything until you get on top of the posts. However, if you put them on ahead of time, it's kind of easier once the thing is sitting on top of the posts. And then I just reconnected the cables on either side. They are directional, so they only go in one way. And then you put it on top of the post and you screw it down. Now I'm just going to reattach the battery, put the battery in the cavity, battery cover, case goes over the top, screw on the cap. Stay tuned. Okay, battery went right back in. The foam wrap that had gone over the connector went back around it, but it wasn't stuck in place the way it had been before. It was obviously heat crimped or something. But the thing's tight enough inside that I just wrapped it loosely and then tucked the battery on top of it, and then put the back cover on. The back cover, there is an up and a down. If the slots don't line up with the connectors, it won't work. So obviously, just put it right side up. And the next step is to stick the case on top, screw the screws into the bottom, and then screw the top on.